And for me, this is a golden opportunity for discussing today and tomorrow how, as a project, we can cooperate and work together more and more with the countries which are in the EaPEC region, considering that today Bulgaria and Romania and Estonia are partners of the project, but we don't have lots of coverage in this region. So this is for me an opportunity to engage with you and understand how we can help as a project to be more connected with the ESG agenda of the European Commission. I will start with a slide which is about the European Open Science Cloud. This is, for those who are familiar with it, a high-level vision and initiative coming from the European Commission with participation of DG Connect and RTD. Started in 2016 and starting its implementation phase now. So what are the challenges of the European Open Science Cloud? I'd like to make a few examples. We are today in a stage in Europe where we have a major computing infrastructures, distributed ones like PRAISE, CGI. We have an excellent backbone and national research networks which make computing and data accessible. We are now at a stage of having many tens of research infrastructures which are active at European and international level as major research data producer or consumers. However, all these initiatives and infrastructures are funded in an independent and uncoordinated manner. And quite often researchers have to face different policies and access mechanisms. So to give you an example, I'm a researcher, I want to access Elixir data, but that's a lot of data. I need to download it in my lab, and I need an infrastructure for analyzing the data, and I need also HPC computing cycles for doing processing. So how do I bring all these assets together? It's quite challenging and almost impossible, especially when we have to handle with large amount of computing and large amount of data. So even if we have now in Europe the building blocks available, the problem is now how to connect these building blocks so that they're really usable for researchers, and not just researchers in one country, but across international collaborations. I would like to mention a policy problem that the European Open Science Cloud is trying to tackle, and this is how international users can access national assets. This is a problem today probably solved in the GEAN community and totally unsolved for other infrastructures which require major investments in computing and storage in order to enable international collaborations and recovery of marginal costs. So in practical terms, how, for example, in Moldova, can I support users coming from the United States, from other countries in Europe, and how do I make sure that I have a matching funding nationally and internationally to support this service in the long run? This is a major political problem that the European Commission is facing and tackling with the European Open Science Cloud. EOSCAB is the first implementation project, and it's a large collaboration started from EGI, EUDAT, Indigo Data Cloud, participated by GEAN, but also involving 18 major research infrastructures in Europe. And this is perhaps the first project where we are really closely working together with research infrastructures which bring data and the thematic services into a single integrated platform. We participate in the European Open Science Cloud, aiming at contributing to the architecture. So we will, as I will show later, bring a larger number of services and major data repositories across Europe. We help with the marketplace, which is an online platform to make the fair data coming from the research infrastructures more discoverable. And we help integrating the service portfolio, making it accessible with some core fundamental services like federated AAI. We often talk about AAI, leveraging EduGain. The purpose is to essentially allow every user using own credentials to access the services which come from different providers in the world in the same way today EduRoam allows access to networking. It's also about matters of policies. So what are the criteria that service providers have to meet in order to bring their own services? So we are aiming in the project to pool also services coming from national providers and national funders so that these are accessible, free at point of use to users coming from other countries. In the service catalog, this is a picture showing how we organize it. We have in dark research enabling services, so these are typically those which are directly accessed by researchers. In light blue, the access enabling ones like AI, but also the marketplace and the policies. And the hub, which is a set of procedures, a very lightweight service management system where different research infrastructures and infrastructures come together to obey to the same set of policies, primarily security policies and SLA management processes. The purpose is to simplify the access to a large number of services, and here clockwise we start from, I would say, the discover and reuse. For example, if I am a researcher and through OpenAIRE I find that a given publication has interesting data, where can I download the data which is necessary for my research? And once I have the data, how do I make sure I have an infrastructure for analyzing such data? And after that, of course, the researcher will produce additional new data. Where do I deposit and curate my data? And if I'm generating new publications, in which repository am I going to publish my publications, linking them with the data? So the objective is to try together with the infrastructures and research infrastructures to tackle this cycle. And this is why I also said in the sustainability session, the countries that are now starting and consolidating their national infrastructures have a golden opportunity. Do not just look at networking, because networking will have to be sooner or later be complemented by computing and data infrastructures at a national level that allow your entrants to be connected to a European system. We work with, as I said, many research infrastructures, humanities, engineering, medical and health sciences, and natural sciences. And this is the first endeavor we are having in trying to pull the major services coming from these big European initiatives together. These are the thematic services. What about the foundation? So the computing infrastructure we federate is coming from EGI. Is today the largest distributed infrastructure for high-performance computing and high-throughput computing. Is complementing PRAISE with cloud and HTC services. And we have a major participation from Eastern Europe. So we are very lucky, but definitely we need more sustainability and consolidated funding for having national cloud and HTC infrastructures available for the national researchers, but also for these international infrastructures. This diagram on the right shows from 2010 how the demand for computing has been growing. So we have now an exponential growth of pooled capacity across Europe. Without these, researchers would not be able to analyze the massive amount of data which is produced in Europe. And the reason why this is useful and necessary is not technical, it's because the funding of every single country would not be sufficient to provide the necessary capacity to do this. So in the same way, GEON is the way to scale national funding and make European backbone more sustainable. The same is for distributed computing. Without pooling budgets and national funders, this infrastructure would not be available to European researchers. This is similar to EUDAT, which is our pillar for data management. They bring together major data centers across Europe, providing services for preservation, but also for having a personal workspace in a safe environment where data can be shared across different researchers. Going back to EUSCAB, we are really looking to engage with EAP countries, and we want to bring more national services into this federation. We have a process, and this is particularly aimed at national providers that are mature and already operational. So this means cloud providers, HTC providers at university and academic level, but also data providers and providers of specific analytic services. These are typically developed by researchers, for researchers, and they benefit a lot from having a place, a marketplace at European level where they can be promoted and exposed to a bigger user base. What do? We typically take these requests of providers on board. We have a lightweight validation process, and then these are brought into a catalog and promoted. So we are really looking forward to establish a collaboration with EaPEC countries. We have a marketplace where all these services are exposed. This is particularly relevant to initiatives that don't have any interest in having their own catalog online and maintaining it. This is a facility provided for free by the project where anybody can publicize and share services with others across Europe and beyond. So coming to my last slide, EOSCAP is just at the beginning. Started in 2018. We have 3 years ahead of us. We are really looking forward to cooperate more with countries in the Eastern European region. We would like to leverage existing NRENs to promote a federation of data infrastructures available nationally, cloud infrastructures, so that your national researchers can also, thanks to this reciprocity principle, not only use their own national facilities, but also use the European ones federated in the European Open Science Cloud. The vision of the Commission is that this infrastructure will be free at point of use, with a commitment from the Commission to provide an operational budget to pay for international access. So this will be probably a sustainability mechanism that will boost and make your national infrastructure more accessible to international user groups. The business model of the European Open Science Cloud is very high in the agenda. A governance structure is being put in place as we speak. So we hope that with the coming year, this business model will also boost participation and interest in being part of the European Open Science Cloud to complement national funding streams that still are available but needed to mobilize and be increased across Europe. So that's all. Any question? Hi.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation, and I believe that it's a very crucial initiative in order to integrate different types of infrastructures in a European level. And it's very nice that you are ready to collaborate, but as far as I see, there is no voice of Eastern Partnership countries in the EOSCAP, and perhaps in a few years we will see that we have digital divide because we don't know what's going on internally in this big initiative. And what I would like to find out if there is any opportunity somehow to be presented as a region in the EOSCAP in order to understand what's going on and how we can contribute in this big family.
So thanks. Yeah, it's an excellent question. So what I would like to get before I leave to return to office is to understand from the partners like Armenia and the others in the region how you would like to contribute. And there are different levels. There's a technical contribution by being part of the federation, but also a way to connect with other countries who are already engaged in the project and to give visibility and also create a roadmap. So what can we do concretely in the coming months together? What are the low-hanging fruits? What can we achieve with the two projects working together? So this is really my interest in being in this conference, to understand from you what is also useful in the region and what we can do together. So let's say it's an open question for me, and we can continue during the rest of the conference.
Yes, very nice presentation. But I would like to ask you, how can you access this portal?
So as a user, so from the demand side, this is about discovering services being authenticated and authorized using Edugain, ORCID, other institutional identity providers, place requests for services which are published, which will be handled and addressed by the providers which are chosen by the user. From a provider point of view, this is about committing to be part of the initiative by publicizing the services and committing to an operational level that ensures the users can trust the service which is brought into the European Open Science Cloud. So this is, if you want, from the two angles. The Commission, specifically for EuSCAB, asked to provide all services for free. So in the project, for the providers that are already in the consortium, we have an instrument which is called virtual access, which means the services which are demonstrating access and interest from user communities have a way to recover funding partially for marginal costs through project funding. So we, through this mechanism, offer the services like compute, storage, personal workspaces, access to analytics for free. So this is completely free for users. As you can imagine, the funding available is 33 million. I know EGI on a yearly basis is worth in the Federation 250 million euros from national funds. So we have no ambition to be able to deliver with this small funding major amount of storage and computing, but definitely sufficient resources to do piloting, which we hope will be also a seed in order to create future collaborations between research communities and national providers.
You mentioned that computing and storage resources will be free for, but what about data? So the data which will be presented in this project, will be this also free for the use, or what will be conditions? Because this is important also.
Yes, so there are two aspects in this question. One is the policy, and the policies for access are open access, which means also policy-based access, meaning, for example, if you have a genomics, the data will be open for access only if, as a user community or a project, you are authenticated by the data providers. And this is in compliance with the policies defined by the research infrastructures which are bringing their data. For other types of open data, and I would like to make an example, which is Copernicus data, all the Sentinel data. In the project, we have a number of public research infrastructures which bring together Copernicus data and computing, so the cloud infrastructure, so that you can, for free, access and process the data in these cloud infrastructures. And we also have some of the commercial partners who are member of the DS Copernicus initiative, which is the Data and Information Access Service. So this means making this data available for free, also for analysis. So this is about coupling together both the open data and the computing. DS in Copernicus is specifically aimed for commercial actors, so typically the computing is paid in this project. The focus is researchers, and they will get the data and the computing for free, paid in the project.